Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void were prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Biggly Piggly Wiggly on Spring Street has served 3 generations of shoppers since 1955 as the largest locally owned independent grocery store in the area. The Joseph family owners grew up here, so you know they're invested in the community. They provide the biggest variety of choice meats, the freshest produce, an in-house deli bakery, great wine selection, and more of your favorite brands. Every purchase gives you gasoline points so you can save at our pumps. Order online for pickup at BigglyPigglyWiggly.com. Biggly Piggly Wiggly on Spring Street. No one beats the pig.
The opinions expressed on Scoop Squad Truth Pod are those of the hosts and the guests and not those of WVRC Media. Scoop Squad Truth Pod, copyright 2024. Scoop Squad Truth Squad, LLC.
And welcome to the first episode of 2024 of the Scoop Squad Truth Pod podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Switzer, here in Charleston, West Virginia, with my co-host, Ron Hughes.
Hey, Ashley. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
First episode of the new year.
Yeah, this is the year we're going to be 2 years old.
That's right. And, you know, what we went through last year, you know, we really kind of set the bar on what a podcast could be for us. And
well, a podcast in Charleston, West Virginia that's like hyper-focused on hyper-local politics.
Yeah, anything that's in this part of West Virginia, we're going to cover, whether it's Kanawha County, City of Charleston, Lincoln County, Calhoun County. I mean, we've looked at several institutions, even some state agencies and nonprofits that have state agency ties. You know, we've kind of looked at different areas. We became famous because of our releases with victims of the city police chief here in Charleston, and let them tell their stories, and
which resulted in big changes at the department.
Huge changes that are ongoing.
Good changes, positive changes.
So we've got quite a bit to live up to, but luckily this is an election year.
Yeah.
So there will be things that come up that need to be discussed.
That's right.
The West Virginia First Foundation is looking for a CEO, someone to basically run it. And from what I've heard, there are those that are in charge of putting this together, from the state attorney general and some of those on the board that were looking at somebody from out of state. Mm-hmm. And that was done away with.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, that's no longer going to be the case. I think that we were looking at a professional fund or a professional, and in this case, I think they're looking for. They really want to be in tune with everything that's hyper local and look for somebody from West Virginia, rather than a professional CEO from out of state.
Well, I mean, I wonder if there are any out of state CEOs that are originally from West Virginia that would like to come.
Well,
back.
I'm sure there are a few.
That'd be cool.
But I guess you look for someone with expertise in these type of foundations.
Yeah.
But revisited some of the numbers. The opioid settlement numbers.
Well, because we had Rusty Webb on a few weeks ago, who was appointed by Morrissey to be the lead attorney representing West Virginia in the opioid.
Right.
And he made a very strong argument for the West Virginia First Foundation, for Patrick Morrissey's, as Attorney General, and as well as just all the legal decisions and things,
Right.
the settlement money,
the
attorney
it was
fees.
basically passed by the legislature, but they had a vision of how this was going to work, and a certain percentage goes to the foundation, a nonprofit. A certain percentage goes to the counties and the cities. And it all looks, for the most part, on the up and up. It looks like Charleston got a huge amount. When I compare it to other cities,
which is scary.
In ratio of their population, they got a whole lot more than some of the other cities.
Well, and that's what's kind of concerning to me, because the city of Charleston is just very, 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 very liberal, left leaning, like just lots of just liberal policies and things. And that, with this kind of money, I can just kind of picture every nonprofit holding their hand out, or new nonprofits popping up, claiming to be able to address these situations that came with the opioid crisis. And that's the problem,
Right.
and there's so little oversight. We talked a little bit about, Reverend Watts and his $1 million, and Man-A-Mill and their $1 million, and just the lack of accountability and oversight as there is right now is just it's a little concerning.
Well, I'm sure we'll hear more about this, especially with the legislature beginning to come in session in about a week. The State of the State will be a week from this week. It'll be about the 10th of
and Greg
January.
Thomas was also on Dave Allen this morning talking about, he was actually, it's, West Virginians Against Lawsuit Abuse, I guess is the group that he was speaking for, but he talked a little bit about the attorneys, and apparently there were just 10 attorneys. And Rusty was talking about the attorney's fee being very low. Mm-hmm. Maybe he said 7%. But when you do the math, that's $142 million.
That was a large chunk.
That's a lot of money. So when you think about it in those terms, the percentage, 7% doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're talking about close to $1 billion going to 10, a handful of attorneys, trial attorneys, that bothers some people.
As it should.
Yeah.
As it should. Because this was money that was made by companies and distributors off the backs of victims in West Virginia.
And he made Greg made the point, this isn't just like some accident that a trial attorney is out chasing, an ambulance. This is off the backs of the people of West Virginia. And, his argument was that more of a percentage should have gone to the people.
Right. And there were basically several pots of money, but as I looked deeper into it, I realized that there were dollars that came from the manufacturers, the pharmaceutical companies, and then also another pot that came from the distributors. So every entity, every city and county has two pots.
Oh, interesting.
Coming
Okay.
at them.
So would they have two separate, lists of requirements, do you think? Or would since it's coming from two pots, I wonder?
I guess it's just two pots, for them to decide how to put it together.
Okay.
But Charleston, every county, city, organization had different sets of pots.
Did Rusty ever email us that information that he brought?
No.
With him a couple weeks ago?
No.
Were you able to find that information that he brought with us or to us? Okay.
No.
So it's not readily available.
Right. Okay. For example, I just pulled up City of St. Albans in Kanawha County. Distributor money, they received $355,961. Non-distributor money, which would be pharmaceutical companies, would be $323,180.
Okay.
City of Charleston. Now, the City of Charleston has a population of slightly under 50,000. The City of St. Albans has a population slightly under 12,000, if I remember right.
Wow, okay.
But the City of Charleston received $4.9 million and one bucket, and then $4.485 million in another bucket. population-wise, I'm not sure that this is a fair distribution. And looking at South Charleston,
that's a little out of kilter.
South Charleston, has a population comparable to St. Albans, maybe about 12, 14,000 people. 50,000, or you take 50,000 divided by 5. Let's say it's 50,000 divided by 10,000. That's only 5. A factor of 5. But $4.94 million. I mean, you add these two together, it's close to $10 million versus $6 million for a city like St. Albans that also suffered quite a bit from the opioid crisis. And I'm sure South Charleston did. South Charleston only received, approximately $1.3 million, $1.35 million compared to, compared to Charleston.
Well, and I guess the City of Charleston Council will decide how that is spent. Am I right?
I believe so.
Oh, Lord Jesus, come quickly. Say, what are we going to do with all that money?
Yeah, it's going to happen, and they get a little bit more, I think, every year. This was the 2023 distribution, so there'll be more distributed. Now, this doesn't include the money that was given to West Virginia First Foundation.
Yeah,
and if I'm wrong, I certainly would want to be corrected.
Absolutely.
But the West Virginia First Foundation received 72.5%. Local governments got 24.5%.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, when you look at the actual numbers, it's pretty mind-boggling, the amount of money coming. And I think a lot of us were concerned about this several years ago with the syringe service programs that were popping up, everywhere. And, thankfully the legislature addressed that. I just wonder, what other work they're going to have to do this session to make sure that, that the money is used to help the people.
To alleviate. I mean, I'm sure some of these small cities and counties have jail, or especially the counties, have jail bills.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that as well. They do.
But, who they owe is the state.
Right.
I mean,
right.
You're basically going to take this money and give it back to the state.
Right. And goodness gracious, look at the jail system. Look at what's going on in the jail system here in West Virginia.
Right.
It's just, it's quite overwhelming.
Now, I could look at a place like Lincoln County. Lincoln County is going to get about close to $2 million as an entire county.
Well, and Charleston, I was going to say, I just wonder, I understand that it's based on population, but was Charleston the hardest impacted city as far as the opioid crisis is concerned?
I don't think so.
I mean, I would argue that that's not the case. I would argue that there are outlying counties and communities that may never recover.
Right. I think these ratios are just slightly askew.
Yeah, a little bit. Sounds like it. But you know what? Like we said, we are open to anyone coming back on or calling us and saying, "Hey, this is you had bad information or whatever." But like you said, the information is not readily available. Right. What Rusty bought in a couple weeks ago, so I'll have to text him and see.
When I look at what the uses, specifically what these uses should be, it's not limited to this. But, treating opioid use disorder, supporting people in recovery and treatment, connecting people and communities to adequate care models, addressing the needs of the criminal justice involved persons. Yeah. So you've got people who, obviously became criminals that maybe they wouldn't have ordinarily become criminals because of the drug habit.
Right.
Support for pregnant people and their families, including babies with neonatal abstinence syndrome.
I think that the problem or the disconnect comes in when you talk about helping people who are in recovery. I would be interested to see if some of this money is allowed to go to abstinence-based programs, because there is a federally, I don't believe federal dollars can go to abstinence-based programs. And again, if I think that's a thing. So I would be interested to see what the requirements are.
Well, one of these other uses could be prevention of over-prescribing opioids. I don't know why that takes money to be to prevent the over-prescribing. I mean, it sounds like education for doctors.
Yeah.
Preventing fibrosis and other related injuries, including illnesses, and then support for first responders, treatment providers, and others who help with substance use disorder and interventions.
Yeah, I would think.
Now, it's caused a crisis in our foster care system because so many
100%.
So many drug users had babies. I mean, I know of one couple who adopted or first fostered 4 children at different times who were born addicted.
Yeah.
And they fostered them, then they adopted them, but some of them required treatment, into their teen years at least.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's how far they've made it so far.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to need a lot of support.
And, they adopt them as infants and 2 and 3-year-olds, and now the kids are teenagers. But some of them did have injuries sustained, from being born addicted.
Yeah.
Well,
that's another thing we've looked into a lot. We've talked to professional, health care professionals who interact with these families and mothers who give birth to dependent babies, and just the whole thing that comes with with that CPS and the healthcare workers who are actually living this nightmare, watching these babies go back into these homes, and and that's something that we'll continue to look at through 2024.
Right.
So,
but anyway, I wanted to follow up on that, because
I'm glad you did.
We did interview Rusty. I just don't think we got anything to follow up on that. So we're still looking for that. Give him a chance to get through the holidays, and I definitely want to follow up because somebody should be watching where the money goes.
Absolutely.
He kind of poo-pooed our concerns that the rules were put together behind closed doors. That who wants to be observed while they're setting up the rules of procedure. But if you have nothing to hide, I don't know why you're worried about cameras or observers.
Yeah.
I liken it to the founding fathers putting the Constitution together. We wouldn't have our history if somebody wasn't there observing on how this was put together.
Yeah.
How we decided we're going to have.
Well, you need questioning, and you need all these things.
Right. Not saying that people need to be standing over their shoulders, criticize them as they do it, but let some observation take place. You can set up rules that people don't maybe not be allowed to talk while you're doing it, but you should still have the observation.
Yeah,
I just don't think that's.
That wasn't really a valid argument.
I don't think so. I mean, I get his point.
Yeah.
But
he has to make that point.
Right. But people in the media have the other point.
Right.
We have sunshine laws for a reason.
I really just don't think it's. I don't think it's ever okay to lock out the media.
Right.
I just don't. And that speaking of, that reminds me of an incident or a situation where the mayor was meeting with a lot of Charleston Catholic and Sacred Heart parents about the homeless issue downtown and all of the incidents of assaults and threats against these parents and their children, and she would not let the media in.
Interesting.
So, yeah, I just don't like that. Okay, well, speaking of counties and accountability and politics,
government,
we have a special guest in the studio.
Right. We have a gentleman who has helped us uncover some issues in Lincoln County. And if you're familiar with West Virginia state history, Lincoln County has had issues with elections, probably the last 50 years.
Yeah.
Mostly it's been a one-party county, throughout my childhood and adulthood. Now I'm almost approaching retirement age. Nothing much has changed. You had a couple of families, that kind of ran things there until recently. And one of our guests is Jody Pistore, who was elected to school board in the 22 election with about two other, I would call them outsiders because they weren't the typical Democrat regime that they'd had there. And as school board member.
And he came on the show as a school board member.
And pointed out some deficiencies in government in Lincoln County. So we wanted to invite Jody to talk about what's happened in Lincoln County with the school system and his fight with the existing county commissioners over actions that the school system needed in order to have a proper system.
And can we talk a little bit about the health department issue too?
We could talk about that.
Okay.
So we invited Jody Pistore, who's
Welcome,
going
Jody.
to be.
Thank you.
He's going to be resigning or did resign from the school board in order to run for county commission in order to make a little bit more impact. You may be one of the first Republicans that they've had as a county commissioner there, if I'm not mistaken, if you get elected.
Kim Blair is there now.
Yes.
Okay.
And,
but was Kim traditionally a Republican?
Yes, she was, and we were part of her team.
Okay,
and,
I gotcha. So before Kim,
we displaced 8 out of 8 in this last race.
Wow.
And hopefully we'll do the same this time and finish the job.
Okay, Jody, your last name reminds me of pistachio. So I have to ask you, because this is the Scoop Squad, what is your favorite ice cream before we dig into the issues? Got a favorite flavor?
Pralines and cream.
Oh, that's a good one. I'm not sure if anybody has said that one.
Well, if you grew up with Baskin Robbins, you
had me some pralines and cream. That's a good one.
You had your well, growing up, we didn't have Baskin Robbins until I was a teenager, so I never heard of it till I was a teenager, and then it's kind of like became addictive. Yeah, at St. Albans Mall, we got a Dairy Queen.
We had one up on Bridge Road. I would ride my bike from Parkwood down to where the Bridge Road shops are now, and what was it? The Daiquiri Freeze. That was what I got all summer long.
That's where it started.
That's right. Hey, can we take a break?
Yeah, let's take a break, and we'll dive into what's going on in Lincoln County, what's been going on, and what hopefully might happen.
We got the important stuff out of the way. All right, join us for the second scoop in just 1 second.
The Scoop Squad Truth Pod would like to thank our sponsors. Those include Chris Walters at Integrity Insurance, featuring auto, home, life, business, workers' compensation, and pet insurance. Pet insurance, you say? That's health insurance for your dogs or cats that covers special foods, illnesses, surgeries, and medication. They're on 16 Capitol Street in Charleston at 346-9181, or reach them at www.iigwv.com. Also by Jody's Mobile Services, offering steam cleaning, pressure washing, fleet washing, and auto detailing. We come to you. They're at 304-437-3164. And also by Eggplant on Bridge Road. Anything but ordinary. Go to eggplantshop.com. Also by T-Graphics on the west side, 312 Buchanan Street, 345-4816. Go to tgraphics.com for screen printing and embroidery since 1984. Again at 345-4816.
Welcome back to the second scoop of 2024 of the Scoop Squad Truth Pod. And we have Jody Pistore in the house. Jody's actually one of our sponsors.
Right.
I mean, in the spirit of transparency, let's get that out there.
We're not afraid to ask our sponsors to step up to the plate and tell us, what's going on.
They have a story to tell too.
Yeah. So we've had.
Lisa Payne's been on.
Has been on.
Claudette will come on at some point. JB, JB is one of our contributors.
JB Akers.
Let's see. Was there anybody?
But Eggplant, has been on a couple of times.
Yes. And Elisa's going to join us more in 2024.
She's also not only a business owner, but she's active in the community covering the school board.
She's boots on the ground. She is, and
she lets us know what's going on, especially with the school board.
There's a power company meeting coming up too. She's going to go to. There's a city council meeting. You guys are listening to this probably on Wednesday. There's a city council meeting tonight, and then there's also, we were going to talk about more Capito resigning his seat. There's going to be some. There's subcommittee meeting tomorrow. At the Republicans are going to sift through some applications for that seat and then come up with some names that.
And today, Nicholas County delegate resigned to run for auditor.
Oh, who was that?
The name just went right out of my head.
That's okay.
I'll have to come back to it.
That's all right. Hey, Jody, welcome. And first of all, let me say thank you for being a sponsor of the Scoop Squad. It's humbling, and it's we're just very grateful and thankful for your support. But that, I would say that just because people are sponsors of this podcast I don't feel like it blurs our vision at all.
I just wanted to thank you, Ashley, and Ron for inviting me on because even though I am a sponsor, the reason that I decided to sponsor the program before I even came on the first time is because I love that you guys are the boots on the ground and the city council meetings, and you are in the schools, and you know what's going on, not only in Charleston, but the counties around you, and I think that's just wonderful.
Oh, thanks so much.
And since you mentioned the city of Charleston being liberal, it's funny, I think our county is just being inundated with rhinos now.
In Lincoln County?
In Lincoln County. All of our Democratic officials now have moved into the Republican Party.
Yeah.
And the reason I call them rhinos because literally they're Republicans in name only.
Yeah.
And one, of course, is going to be my opponent, Josh Stowers. He has been a Democrat from
that's a Democrat, traditionally Democrat family in Lincoln County going
and
way
as far
back.
as I know, just recently his name was taken off as the Democratic treasurer for the Democratic Party in Lincoln County, and he's teaming up with the other Democrats, and they're rolling into our party. And so we formed a conservative political action committee in Lincoln County. And so the people who are conservative, and I don't care about Republican, Independent, Mountain Party, I don't care what you are, Green Party. If you're conservative, we want you to run for public office. And the reason I'm running for county commission is not because I didn't have a great time in the school board. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
And we did so much. It's phenomenal. I've got a whole list of stuff.
Yeah, let's talk about some of your accomplishments.
Okay.
Or maybe you can talk about what you inherited when you were first elected. You and two others kind of ran together.
We did. Jeremy Wilson and
in 2022.
David Bell. Yes, we did.
And so what did you face when you first
started?
started?
The Lincoln County schools were under a state of emergency with the West Virginia Department of Education. And after we took lead in the school system, we were taken off the West Virginia Department of Education's state of emergency. We moved our high school from a trimester situation back to a traditional semester. Situation, and that was almost canceled by the state, but yet we stuck with our guns and we won that fight, and the state decided that they had on as something they wanted to get involved in.
Do other counties use a trimester system? I don't remember it.
The only time that I've ever heard of it was when our superintendent was at St. Albans High School.
Kelly?
And as soon as he left there, it was canceled because it really didn't work out too well for him. And then it was brought to our county.
Right.
And so the emphasis...
He became a superintendent.
Yes, he became superintendent.
Was that David Kelly or Mike?
Jeff Kelly.
Jeff Kelly.
Yeah.
And like
Jeff's
other
a great
county,
guy. I like Jeff, don't get me wrong, but it just didn't work for our situation.
Right. There's several of them that are in the school system.
Right.
And
in our situation, our kids are not going to fill the colleges up. And that's not a bad thing. But we wanted an emphasis not toward college prep. We wanted an emphasis for the rest of the 85% of our kids who never see the inside of a college classroom.
Right.
And so we wanted a career technical education person. And
one size does not fit all.
No, that's right. And we succeeded in getting a superintendent from Cabell County who's wonderful. His name's Frank Barnett. And he had a wonderful CTE program in Cabell. So he is our new superintendent, and that's one of our victories.
Wow,
that's huge. That everyone said we'd never be able to do it when we were campaigning. One of our campaign's promises was we would build an athletic facility at the high school. The high school has been there for 17 years now. Mm-hmm. This is the first year they've ever had an athletic facility. We have $1 million field out there. We have bleachers out there.
Where did they have to
We're
go?
putting our first running track. Wow. The kids used to have to run in the parking lot. Could you imagine that?
No.
To practice? And so we're putting in the first track that they've ever had in the history of Lincoln County, and we are thrilled. We purchased the Lions Club field across the street, and we also partnered with the Lincoln County Youth Association to improve the sports throughout the county. Recently, all of the county sports locations are going to be lit at night for the first time. Mm-hmm. We accomplished so much. We approved the tuition cost for our college-bound juniors and seniors to go to Southern Community College for free.
A lot of counties have had that for a while.
We have too, and we continued that. We created a plain language academic standard brochure for our kids. Right now, K through 3. Next year, it's going to be 4 through 6. And that's a pamphlet that a kid brings home, and it tells them from Apple iLearning, the Apple program, it tells them where your kid is in his performance, in his grade, and it's very simple for the parent to read. That was something that we did.
Oh, wow.
We began a process of upgrading all of our county policies. County policies are upgraded by the legislature every session, and then it's up to the county to upgrade that individually, what they want to choose. We had not had over 500 policies upgraded.
Oh, my goodness.
Over 500. And so we started that backlog, and we have,
have you made a dent in that?
A huge dent.
Wow.
And they're making it every week.
That's
just
excellent.
About. And we're going through all of our policies. We established, because we had so many employees that were missing work, we established a new employee incentive on top of the state incentive to give each employee who would not miss, it's a scale.
An attendance policy.
Attendance policy, a bonus of $1,500 per person. We closed, and we didn't really want to, but we closed one of the lowest performing schools in the state, Ranger Elementary. That will save our county over $700,000 a year.
Mm-hmm. Was that aren't there like 364 or so
364 or so
elementary
schools in
and where was this one ranked?
And Ranger was 364th.
Is that right?
And they had a total part-time and full-time staff of 26 and 70-some students.
3-to-1 ratio.
3-to-1 ratio. So
and
the
it was still
argument
failing.
for a smaller classroom really is not there unless it's performing.
Interesting.
And so we had to do that.
Yeah.
There was no choice.
So they would be able to be bused in schools.
Better performing and really not that far away.
And there's really only 70
miles.
students.
Pardon?
I said 70 students in the whole elementary school?
Or something like that.
So that's really like not that many kids that are going to be
and it was falling.
Per grade level.
We did a pro forma projection. It was falling. In the next few years, it would fall down to 50 in the next few years.
That's not hard to absorb
so
in other
schools. So it was not hard to figure out. We purchased over $400,000 in playground equipment just for a couple of our schools. We successfully lobbied legislatures for classroom aids, grades 1 through 3. Mm-hmm. We were part of that movement. Again, CTE has been our future focus, and our plan is
and that's community technical education.
Yes.
Here in Charleston, that might be
career technical education.
But that would be a school like here in Kanawha County, Ben Franklin, Carver.
Ben Franklin, Carver, those schools.
Yeah.
And Lincoln didn't have one, did they?
Well, we had a small one at the high school, but our plan is to expand that exponentially. Mm-hmm. And whenever Duval gets our new school that we're building now, Duval is in a temporary facility that used to be our old CTE building. And we would like to put not only CTE classes there for our kids, but also for our adults in the communities. Because a lot of these people who are in recovery, they don't have adequate funding
and you guys need money to do
jobs.
That.
Yes, and there's nothing wrong with a guy going out there and being a refrigeration worker and making $150,000 a year.
Yes,
that contributes to everyone in the community. There's family and everyone else.
And Lincoln County's been hit hard.
It has been, and probably harder with the opioid crisis
that's what I think.
Charleston could ever imagine.
Absolutely.
Especially, in comparison.
And look
to
at the
population.
resources that we have here in town, especially when you're talking about the community technical
we already have.
or career technical that we already have. Yeah.
We encouraged our superintendent and our assistant superintendent to go after some of the kids who were homeschooled, and they brought back $300,000 a year to our little school system. And that was a big deal for us. We secured thousands of dollars through Mike Stewart, who was our state senator, full friend, and Flimsy Adkins, who is our House of Delegates.
He's been on this
representative, and they're just great friends of ours. We awarded a contract to build the Duval School and also to do everything there. I could go on and on and on.
And Jody, I remember the last time you were here, I said you were going down. The last time you were on, I think you called in, and you were going down this list, and I'm like, holy cow, you have a big job in front of you.
Right.
It sounds like
so you felt like you've accomplished enough.
It sounds like it.
Since your election, that you need to look at the rest of the county. As far as your
every time I turned around, I was hearing these stories that you've heard about the health department, about so many things, and I'm sitting here thinking to myself, there's got to be a businessman in this county who can run this business. Every county, to me, should be run as a profitable business. Mm-hmm. And I have had, I believe, 14 businesses in my life, all profitable, all successful. And I thought, I need to do that. I need to be the guy to do that. And so I decided, since we couldn't find anyone else to do it, that I'd be the guy to do that. And since then, my eyes have been so opened to the recent commission that it is just phenomenal, the money that to me has been just disappearing, wasted.
You told us once before that there was was it a county commissioner whose family were all on the county cell phone plan?
I'm going tomorrow to pick up the FOIA request that I requested many, many, many months ago. And as far as I can tell, that I've been told, and it's hearsay at this moment, but I'm sure I'll confirm it tomorrow, that 5 cell phones over $22,000 has been taken out of the county funds to supply one of our county commissioners and her family, her husband, and 3 kids, 5 cell phones. And to me, that's just unacceptable.
So you filed a FOIA. How many months ago?
Let me tell you this. We're talking amongst ourselves, and we're wondering too. The county assessor, the local mayor, the House of Delegates member, all of us are filing FOIA requests, and we do not get answers, period.
Well, see, the last time that Josh Towers was on this show, I went back and listened to the podcast because I knew you were coming on.
Right.
But I talked about that. He's like, he's FOIAs, whenever we're issued a FOIA, I'm going to tell you that we get it out and we answer it. And I'm like, come on. Like, we all know that if there's an agency or a government entity that does not want information released, they can drag their feet for months and months and months until the person forgets about it or gives up.
Yes.
And he would not acknowledge that.
I have the paperwork in my car that I'll give you after this from the county assessor and other offices that their FOIA requests have never been answered, and they're over a year old. I went to the county prosecutor, and I understand his situation. He told me, he says, you're going to have to look somewhere else because I'm the county prosecutor. I represent the county commission, and I understand that that's a conflict of interest, but there's nowhere that I've found that we could go to address this situation.
That doesn't make sense to me. The county prosecutor, isn't the county prosecutor supposed to look out for the citizens of Lincoln County?
That was my assumption, but evidently that's not the way it works.
Oh, really?
And so I haven't found anyone to listen to what we're asking these questions about the phones and other things that we'd really like to know about.
Yeah.
That we've never received our
Who
answers
is the prosecutor now?
He's a new guy, and I forget his name. I was only in his office one time to ask him why we can't get FOIA requests answered. But he's a nice guy, and I understand where he is and his problem, that he's stuck in representing them. But it's funny, you guys, everything that you talked about tonight just rang a bell with me because I've been helping people in recovery since 2005 in my business. And I hire folks right out of prison. I hire them off the street. I hire them out of drug recovery centers. And I run my business, like a business, but yet with compassion at the same time. And with that money as a county commissioner in Lincoln County, I would know what to do with it.
Yeah.
I don't think the people there right now do. And that's two. I have one new one on there. She would. But I think there's an air of arrogant incompetence there. And, incompetence with humility works because you're incompetent and you get help. You build a team. Arrogance with competence also works because that's Donald Trump. He's arrogant, okay?
Right.
But he's competent. He knows what he's doing. He gets a job done. Right. But when you mix arrogance and incompetence, nothing happens.
Yeah.
And,
and that's what you're seeing in Lincoln County.
That's what I'm seeing in Lincoln County. We lost $72,000 in the past 3 years at a place called Emerald Gardens, plus $30,000 in legal fees to adjudicate that situation, where Josh Stower said there's only one cost approach to taxes. There's actually three, and he didn't know that. We've lost at least $100,000 from just a squabble over switching offices, the assessor switching offices with the sheriff. And finally, they gave up on that pursuit. If you look at the documents, I've got pictures on my phone of the document storage facility they have across the street. They literally had someone, and I don't know who, perhaps the custodian, go across the street and just throw the records in there. And they're everywhere. They're just in a big heap, in a big pile. And it's ridiculous.
No filing system?
No filing system, no order, no rhyme, no reason. The courthouse has needed repaired for way too many years, and it still has not been adequately repaired. Mm-hmm. We have very little to no security at our courthouse. And Josh stated, I was watching him online a few meetings ago, that he didn't even know we didn't have security at the courthouse. So they brought a guy in there who's got no uniform on, no weapon, no anything to watch the metal detector.
No bailiff?
No bailiff, no. I mean, the things that just drive me nuts. As a school board, we attempted to get a resource officer in every school. That was our goal. We could not do that because our department, at least that I know of, for the last 8 years, has not been in compliance legally. Mm-hmm. You have to have a compliant sheriff's department to get federal grants and state funds. We've got a friend of mine whose name is Danny Clayton. He's going to be running for sheriff, and I'd love to bring him here if that's okay sometime.
He'd be welcome.
Danny
How
has
are they out of
great,
compliance?
He has a great vision.
How are you out of compliance as a sheriff's department?
Start from start to finish, okay? Number one, the records room is just like the one I described at the courthouse. The evidence room is not secured.
Well, the sheriff himself is not a trained officer. Right?
But he's playing a trained officer. Uh-huh. A sheriff is there to run a business.
Right.
Instead, our sheriff has strapped on a gun, grabbed a cruiser,
with no training,
didn't go to the academy. I think he tried a couple times and didn't make it. But, you don't play an officer unless you're a trained officer.
Yeah.
You're a sheriff is a dual role, and he is to run the tax department,
tax collection
of collecting, and then he's also to run through his chief deputy the security of the county. Yeah. And Danny Clayton has a wonderful vision. He's going to hire some guys that are retiring from the state police department, and we can't say who they are,
right.
But they're going to run a real police department.
Wow.
But to me, what a county commissioner is to do is to build a great team.
Yeah.
He's to be over the sheriff. He's to be over all of these departments. And you can't do that just showing up once a month.
Right.
It is my understanding from talking to people in the courthouse that some of these county commissioners show up for the meeting once a month.
They don't have office hours?
No, absolutely not. If I am elected as a county commissioner, I will be in the courthouse 5 days a week, minimum, because you need to know what's going on.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot to do.
You know my family in the grocery business. If you would go to our grocery stores, we had 4 at one time, you would see one of my family there.
You were always,
during
at
the
all
opening hours. We were there. Groceries could just run away from us.
And
as can cash.
And the business
Right.
too. That's exactly right.
It's a job.
It's
like
absolutely right. What job do you have that you can show up once a month and expect to know what's going on? None.
Hey, on that note, can we come back?
Sure.
All right, we're going to come back.
Well, we want to talk about the upcoming election for commissioner and some of the hurdles you've run into, so to speak, on just trying to get your name out there.
Sure. Yeah. So join us for the third and final scoop. We'll see you in a sec.
The Scoop Squad Truth Pod would like to thank our sponsors. Those include Chris Walters at Integrity Insurance, featuring auto, home, life, business, workers' compensation, and pet insurance. Pet insurance, you say? That's health insurance for your dogs or cats that covers special foods, illnesses, surgeries, and medication. They're on 16 Capitol Street in Charleston at 346-9181, or reach them at www.iigwv.com. Also by Jody's Mobile Services, offering steam cleaning, pressure washing, fleet washing, and auto detailing. We come to you. They're at 304-437-3164. And also by Eggplant on Bridge Road. Anything but ordinary. Go to eggplantshop.com. Also by T-Graphics on the west side, 312 Buchanan Street, 345-4816. Go to tgraphics.com for screen printing and embroidery since 1984. Again at 345-4816.
And it's the third and final scoop of the Scoop Squad Truth Pod 2024.
We want to acknowledge, we mentioned Jody's business, which we actually never talked about what your business is, but you can say it if you want to and give your phone
Jody's
number.
Mobile Services.
And what do you do?
Anything that you can get wet, we can wash. That's our sort of cliche.
I love it.
But we wash hospitals, we wash large buildings, parking buildings, houses.
Tractor trailers?
Fleets. We mostly do our probably half of our business is at Capital City Auto Auction in St. Albans.
Cleaning
Some
vehicles.
weeks we'll detail and wash 900 cars a week, 52 weeks a year.
Wow.
So it's a great business, and I have a great business manager. His name's Sean Guthrie, and Sean literally runs my business. I don't do anything anymore, so I'm free to be a county commissioner.
Oh, that's excellent. Well, you mentioned hiring people in recovery. How is that? How does that work for you? Is that
we have churches,
successful?
We have churches, and what rang my bell, so to speak, is what you said. We have churches that get guys in recovery, and these churches only work with abstinence-based programs. And so our guys are tested sometimes weekly, sometimes randomly, and sometimes even more than that by the church facility that they stay in. So we know we have a drug-free workforce.
What's your turnover?
We turn over some, but we've been very successful because most of the people who want to quit a program have already quit before they've gotten to an abstinence program.
Right.
It's a very good recovery rate. One of the guys, when I started in 2005, is still with me.
Oh, wow.
So that tells
what a story.
Something about our guys,
Yeah.
and they're wonderful. They really care about one another. They hold one another accountable. And I've never been on drugs or done drugs or anything like that. Of course, I'm a pastor's son. My dad would have beat me to death. But anyway, and I'm a pastor too, by the way.
Oh.
I pastor the First Baptist Church of South Charleston. So, but having said that,
I'm sorry I didn't tell you.
That's amazing.
I grew up with him. I
This
pretty
is
much know his
crazy.
life story. But
But having said that, I was also a military chaplain.
Now that you say that, you sound like a pastor.
I was also a military chaplain in the Army. So having said that, I don't know what to look for, and the guys, they will peer each other out, and they'll go look across the driveway or the parking lot, and they'll say, "You get over here."
Yeah.
So they know what to look for, and they really take care of my business. They're wonderful.
That. I love that.
Guys.
Well, we also want to thank some of our other sponsors, Biggly Piggly Wiggly over on Spring Street.
Did a lot of my holiday shopping over there.
Great place for any kind of grocery shopping, and local family owned too.
Yeah.
Good selection, local family.
Yeah.
We also thank T Graphics over on the west side. Embroidery, and they're good for work uniforms, school uniforms, polos, T-shirts.
Yeah, and 2024 is going to be the year of Scoop Squad apparel.
That's right.
And
We're going to find a way to get that done.
I told my husband I'd divorce him if he did not get all
all he's got to do
ready.
is send me a logo.
We'll get it. We'll get her done.
Also, Eggplant on Bridge Road, anything but ordinary. Eggplantshop.com. Also, Chris Walters and Integrity Insurance for auto, home, life, business, and pet insurance.
Yeah.
It's health insurance for your dogs and cats. Cover special food, illnesses, surgeries, medications, for example. They're at 16 Capitol Street, 346-9181, or iigwv.com. I don't think we could do this without our sponsors. Helping us pave the way for any of the expenses that come up, either for broadcasting or for podcasting, so to speak, the expenses that go with that, plus when we have to do FOIAs or anything that requires money, we have to be able to do that. So having mentioned and thanked our sponsors, I want to get back to Jody's campaign. He wants to run for county commission in Lincoln County, and he's already run into some roadblocks, and it's only day 3 of the calendar year 2024. Jody, what have you tried to do to get your name out as a county commission candidate?
Well, the one thing that I ran in this morning was really interesting because I know that Josh has friends in the media.
And that Josh Stowers will be your opponent.
Is going to be my opponent.
In the primary?
In the primary, yes. And when I decided that I was going to run for county commission, I decided this past October. And so I thought what I'd like to do is to buy billboards. And so I talked to my Conservative Political Action Committee friends, and I said, would you like to be on billboards? And they said, yeah, that'd be great. And so I called West Virginia Outdoors Sign Company, and I said, I want to reserve all the billboards in Lincoln County that you have. And the guy said, all? And I said, yes, sir, all of them. And he said, okay, who am I talking to? So I told him my name, and I told him this is what I want to do. And he said, well, I'll call you back. So he called me back, and he said, well, I'm afraid we can't do that right now, but we can do it later. And I said, well, tell me when later is, because I've got the funds, we've collected them, and we want to buy these. So he was locations.
If I remember right, he was perfectly willing to sell these to you when he thought you were just a business.
A business, yes.
Right.
Yes. And so
you found out you were a political entity.
So everything changed.
Huh.
And so he called me back and he says, well, we don't sell political ads until January. And I said, okay, I will be calling you every 15 days to remind you that I want those billboards. And so do not sell them. And he said, okay, I'll let you know. So every 15 days since October, I've called him, I've texted him, I've got the emails and things like that to prove it. And it was really strange that he said that he would call me on January about it. Well, I called yesterday. Of course, they're closed on January 1st. It's a holiday.
But you followed up on
But I followed up, and so left him a couple messages when I was at the beach last week even. And so anyway, I got up this morning. He didn't call me at 9 o'clock, so at about 9:35, I called him. And he sort of stuttered around, and he said, oh, let me check. And I said, okay. So he gets back on the phone, and he said, oh, I just checked, and everything is sold. And I said, excuse me.
All the billboards?
All the billboards are sold in Lincoln County. And he said, yeah, we might have 3. And I said, well,
who bought them?
Give me the location. So,
you're
so he sends
this.
me 3, right? So I call him back, and I said, I'll take all 3. And he says, no, we only have 1 now. And I said, oh, that's terrific. And I said, so who bought them? And he said, It's probably nobody you know. I said, well, give me a shot. And he said, a guy named Josh Stowers. And I said, oh, isn't that convenient?
You're a political opponent.
My political opponent, yeah. And I said, I've been calling you since October, reminding you every 15 days that I wanted these. And he says, well, it's first come, first serve. I said, well, I think what October would be first come, in this situation. Do you know when he called? And he said, no, he called and she, which means a female salesman, sold him everything that she had. So
you just got to hold the wrong salesman, Jody. Is that it?
I don't think so. I don't think so because wow. Josh is a good outgoing salesman. To be with him, he's a nice guy to hang out with and everything. But I think he's wise enough and smart enough to play his contacts that he has in the media, and
sure.
Friends of his own the papers, they own, radio stations and things like that.
So he's bought all the billboards. You got one.
Yes. Yeah, I got one. Whew. So, so I was pretty upset about that.
So how you going to counter that?
Oh, that's okay. That's just politics.
Yeah.
That's just, it's just how the ball rolls.
Now you got a strategy. You got to do a different strategy.
We do. We have different strategies anyway. We ran 8 campaigns last election, and we won 8.
Yeah.
Right.
And we were really helpful in Mike Stewart's race also. That would be 9. And so, I'm not going to fret about it.
You got some tricks up your sleeve, don't you?
It's no problem. It just saved me money to
that's right.
invest in another way.
Sure.
So it's not a problem. Like I said, I'm a businessman, and I've come up against many, many obstacles in business, and you don't just quit. You just laugh about it and you go on.
Right, right.
So we'll have other strategies and we'll make a way. But I just thought it was really interesting.
Yeah,
well,
it really
interesting.
is.
I would use the word convenient.
Yeah, I think he did.
Yeah.
Did you miss that, old man?
No.
Okay, so I wanted to ask you a question.
Sure.
You talked earlier about conservative, like rhinos, right?
Yes.
What do you think is the biggest? Because you probably don't buy, like everybody, like Josh said, well, the Democrat Party, it left me. It left me a long time ago, right?
I have a cover of the Lincoln Journal when Josh announced that he was running as a Republican. And right on the front of the Lincoln Journal, he says, I haven't changed any of my beliefs, anything about me, or any way that I would vote. But now I'm going to register as a Republican. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, if you voted with Joe Biden and Barack Obama and all of these people all of your life and you haven't changed anything and you're rolling into the Republican Party, what's wrong with that?
Yeah, because a lot of the people that are changing parties, they'll say that. Like, I mean, Doug Scaff was one, right?
Oh, that's his best friend.
Yeah. So he'll say, they say, so
bingo.
The Democrat Party left us a long time ago. Like, we just don't align, anymore.
Yeah.
They went too far left or whatever. I mean, so you don't buy. You just don't.
I don't buy that.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Not for a
all
moment.
Politics is local. If if the party is leaving you, you still have local people that you can work with to reform the party the way you want it in your county, in your city, in your state.
Yes.
That's why we're part of a CPAC.
Yes. I was going to ask you about your PAC.
Conservative Political Action Committee. I don't care if your party affiliation is the Purple Party. If you have the same conservative values that have, and we invite you to run with us, and what we're looking for when we run in our races
what are you looking for?
We're looking for people with conservative values who are business people.
Business-minded.
Doesn't mean that they have to own the business, but our current candidates, I'm pretty sure just about everyone has either ran a business or is currently running a business.
Have a business experience.
And they have business experience.
Yeah.
In other words, they didn't grow up all their lives having government jobs.
That's exactly right.
Yes, and that is just something that it just.
Nor are they third and fourth generation.
Yeah, I mean, you shouldn't be able to get rich in politics. That shouldn't be your career.
This is not the first generation of Stowers and Lincoln County
No,
government.
not at all.
And I like Josh. Look, I like Josh. I really
do.
He's
very personable.
He's a very personal guy.
He's the kind of guy you'd like to hang out with.
And you know what? He can come on the show anytime. But I did go back and listen to the podcast, and basically what I heard from him was, "There's nothing to see here." That's really what I heard.
Right.
There's nothing to see here. Don't look here.
There was a problem, obviously, with the health department.
But he wanted to say that there's nothing. There's nothing to see.
Do you have an update on that health department?
Yeah, I would love to have an update.
Because
I just about wrecked my car
minutes.
when I was listening to the podcast because
did you really?
The figure that he gave you guys was way off, and he said, "No, that's the end of it, and that's all there is to see here." Basically,
okay. What figure specifically? Give me the deets.
I think what he said
800,000.
We would never reach that limit. Yes. With their payments that they still have to make on that building, it's 750, 800 or more thousand, and that's before an engineer comes in and fixes everything.
Yeah. So it's failed.
It's still failed.
Already.
It's still failing.
His argument was that it's not safe. It's not unsafe.
You can't open.
It's just not finished.
You can't open the doors or the windows on the building.
Mm-hmm.
It's
we had pictures.
Usable.
We had pictures of the steel beams underneath
that were bent
in the foundation. They were bent, and the rivets were coming out.
That's exactly right. And
I still have those.
If you're running a business, the first thing you do if you have a faulty product is send it back to the manufacturer, demand a refund. If they don't have a refund, then you legally pursue legal recourse. I've not done anything like that. And I can't for the life of me figure out why not. That's the big elephant that sits in the room.
Seems like it's been since October when we had, we had
him on to first talk about it back in May. That was the first time that we addressed it.
But then we got pictures.
And then in the fall when we had pictures. And then that's when it was pretty much there's nothing to see here.
We had videos of rain coming off of the poorly treated ground where it sat on a hill.
And he did say that we were spreading misinformation and, was upset about that. And but
the pictures aren't lying,
right?
The price tag.
Nor are the neighbors who are getting flooded.
Well, and the mayor
and the videos weren't
lying. The city was gonna file a lawsuit. I mean, there was some sort of legal action going to be taken by the city, toward the county commission or toward the health department, perhaps.
I think the city and the county are going to get together. That's and save them both thousands and thousands of dollars. They're going to get together and negotiate that the county take over some of the space that they illegally took over, and the city receive some other property in kind that they're wanting to build pickleball courts and tennis courts and stuff on. And so they're going to come to a mutual agreement, but that still doesn't fix the building.
Yeah, has there been any movement? Has there been any movement on the building or the land that you can see?
No, no one's done anything.
It's still empty.
It's still empty. And you can't open the door. You can't open the front door.
So the health department is still operating out in the basement
the basement of the 911 center. I've not been there personally, but I have been told that there's a mold situation in that wet basement and that they shouldn't be there.
Right.
So it's another problem.
Interesting.
So this health department that we covered and discussed back in the fall has had no updates.
No,
just still sitting there.
It's sitting there, and it's interesting. It must have bugs under the shingles because we watch buzzards ripping shingles off all day up there. Buzzards will go after bugs and things that are under shingles, and so it's just amazing. It's just disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, you can't. 2 and 2 is not equaling 4 here.
Right.
It's just not. I'm sorry, and it wasn't when Josh is on, and he knows I know that. I mean,
right? We did make him. He got pretty red faced.
He's pretty heated,
and that's not why I'm here. I'm just here to say,
you're here to say
I would like the opportunity to run it like a business, and I'm not.
You have more ideas. You have better. I mean,
I'm not putting
you're
him
here
down.
Because you feel like your ideas are better.
I do.
You feel
that's it.
I mean, it's not personal.
Right. It's
just
personal.
I got the better plan.
Well, it seems like it became personal, though.
Yes.
When you couldn't buy billboards, when you were promised billboards.
Yeah.
I'm over that.
Yeah, well,
but it was.
But
it sure was an interesting scoop.
It was really interesting. It was really convenient to me.
Yeah. Well, that's old political dirty tricks. From the old days.
Sure.
Anything else that you think needs to be addressed?
Like I said, I think that if you were to run a county courthouse like a business, number one, the first thing is you would make sure that you had correct, proper limits of security, and that building is not secured to the point to where we have a magistrate who right now, she fears for her life. She has been threatened.
That's not okay.
No, that's not okay. She has been threatened. She has been called. They have these criminals have set up shop once on the county courthouse property, and then down the street from the courthouse property with profanity on big billboard signs, holding it up, calling her profane names.
Jeez.
I mean, I could just go on forever with this
somebody
stuff.
could go in, 2 or 3 people could go into the county courthouse with guns or whatever, and there'd be nothing to deter them.
One person with a pocket knife could go in, Ron.
Yeah.
That's how pitiful it is.
Well,
and the sheriff's department has
well,
other
I was
issues
going to say,
as well.
like, if Lincoln County is losing out on federal grants due to an non-compliant sheriff's department, that's a problem.
You have heard Josh and all the rest of them make this stupid excuse, and it really makes me mad.
What is it?
Excuse the strong language,
That's okay.
but it is that we're a poor county and we're not taking that much in. Listen, we're not a poor government. Our government in Washington is giving away counties around us enough to get police officers in the classrooms to protect our children.
But you have to fulfill certain demands.
But you have to be compliant.
Yeah.
Do the things that it
to
takes to
money.
get those federal grants. And they're not being managed well enough from the county commission, and that's not saying Mrs. Blair. She just showed up. She just got there.
And she's one against two.
And she's a voice crying in the wilderness right now. But, that's to say that traditionally they haven't been ran like a business, and they need to be.
Okay.
So there's 1 Republican and 2 Democrats
That's
currently
exactly
on the
right.
commission.
Yeah,
Josh turned a Republican now.
Oh, that's right. Oh, well, okay.
So you guys will have a primary.
There's 1 Republican, 1 Democrat, and 1 Rhino.
So are you and Josh going head-to-head in the primary?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
So there's only 1 county commission seat up this term,
yes.
right? It's every 6 years, is that right?
Every 6 years, and in 2 more years, the next one goes up.
Okay.
Well, Jody, I would like to thank you for those 3
Thank
scoops
you.
of just lots of information and lots of things to think about. And you've got a lot of energy and a lot of ideas, and good luck to you.
I wanted to mention that the recent Nicholas County delegate that's resigning in order to run for auditor is Caleb Hanna.
Okay. I don't think I know that name.
He was just elected here this last term.
Okay.
In 2022.
Okay.
And his opponent
Caleb
will be
Hanna.
A delegate from the Eastern Panhandle.
Caleb Hanna. He's running for auditor? Isn't he like 24?
Yes. Yeah. He was elected at about like 19 or something like that.
All right.
Yeah. He's very young.
He's very, very young. That's all I'm going to say.
Younger than my children.
Yeah, that shows how old we are. All right. Hey, guys, thank you so much. It was a great discussion. I got to go pick my kid up from basketball practice. Ryan, Happy New Year.
Thank you.
And
thank you.
We will see you back. We won't see you, but you will hear us next week.
Well, you catch us on Facebook. You can see what we look like.
That's right. We'll get a picture. All right. Join us next week. Thanks, Charleston.
If you would like to tie your business with this popular podcast, you can contact me, Ron Hughes, to advertise at ron.hughes, ron.hughes, at wvradio.com, or you could call me at 304-342-8131. The Scoop Squad Truth Pod would like to thank our sponsors. Those include Chris Walters at Integrity Insurance, featuring auto, home, life, business, workers' compensation, and pet insurance. Pet insurance, you say? That's health insurance for your dogs or cats that covers special foods, illnesses, surgeries, and medication. They're on 16 Capitol Street in Charleston at 346-9181, or reach them at www.iigwv.com. Also by Jody's Mobile Services, offering steam cleaning, pressure washing, fleet washing, and auto detailing. We come to you. They're at 304-437-3164. And also by Eggplant on Bridge Road. Anything but ordinary. Go to eggplantshop.com. Also by T-Graphics on the west side, 312 Buchanan Street, 345-4816. Go to tgraphics.com for screen printing and embroidery since 1984. Again at 345-4816. Rebroadcast, retransmission, or transcription is not permissible without the expressed approval of Scoop Squad Truth Pod. Copyright 2024.